Today was Smith & Wesson Model 3 day for me at the range. Got a few different versions. Fortunately, I don't have a Russian model, but I got a few other original and reproductions here for you. So I just wanted to go through them. This is a reproduction of a Cimarron first model American. I was shooting it with black powder today, and I got about 60 rounds through it, and now it's so fouled up it's like locked up pretty much. Look at that. I waited like 2 years after they came out with this, waiting for them to come out with one in 44 Smith & Wesson Russian, but they still haven't come out with one yet. So they were hard to come by, and they only come in every once in a while. So I was able to find a used one in 45 Colt. I wanted the original 8-inch barrel length, just like this one. And none of these reproductions, just like that Schofield's a reproduction. I also shoot 45 Schofield black powder in both of these. They don't do well with black powder in 45 Colt, but if you use the shorter 45 Schofield or 45 Cowboy Special brass loaded with black powder, they work a little bit better, but still not perfect. I could usually get about 30 to 35 through the Schofield before it locks up pretty bad, and I was surprised this one today. But something I tried new was I had grease on the arbor or whatever you call it in there, the cylinder base, that I saw in one of 11 Bang Bang videos, and and that seemed to work pretty good. Also, I can't remember, I didn't sort my loads, but everything was loaded with black powder. Some of it was Schutzen, some of it was Swiss. So I think most of it I shot through it today was Swiss, and that's cleaner burning, so that might be why I got more rounds through it. I was able to get 60 through it, and then the last 5 to get to 65, I had to help the cylinder along. I had to open the gun and help the cylinder a few times, and you see how stiff it is. That's on half cock right now, so that's gonna need a good cleaning. So yeah, I got this recently. I've had this Schofield for a few years. It's a 5-inch model, like the Wells Fargo model, they call it. This one's just a regular Uberti import. This one's a Cimarron, which you can only get the Americans from Cimarron. See, they put on top of the barrel, pretty neat there. They put their name Cimarron in there, but it's kind of worded how the Smith & Wesson one would be with the patents. And then the US mark, because this was the first cartridge gun adopted by the US military. It originally fired, of course, 44 Smith & Wesson American. Here's an original Smith & Wesson American round, which I love. I love an original one of these in 44 Smith & Wesson American. I have the dies and brass and stuff, but can't find one that I can afford. And even they made some of these in 44 Russian originals, which those are even harder to find, which is why I was waiting on a reproduction. So maybe Cimarron will come out with a 44 Russian / 44 Special eventually, and I'll probably sell this one because I have the Schofield there to shoot Schofield in. But for now, I got this, which I'm happy with it. Just like I said, one day I want one in 44 Russian. And we'll go up to this one up here. This is an original new model number 3. It's not a Russian, it just has a Russian style trigger guard spur there, I guess you'd call it. And it's a 34,000 serial number. All of these, the originals, were made, the frames were made 1878 to 1898. This is a longer frame model, so that way later on they could chamber these in longer rounds, like 4440. This one's in 44 Russian. And it's like a parts gun that's been all refinished. Almost none of the serial numbers match on the parts pretty much, but that's why I was able to get it so cheap. And it was missing a few parts and screws, but I found a guy that was making parts, and the chambers had leading in them. I think somebody was shooting the wrong caliber in them. People used to shoot 450, I forget, I can't remember the name of the, whatever the British Bulldog fires. People would shoot 450 through these 44 Russians and let them up like crazy. So that's what someone did with black powder, and the chambers are pitted, not badly. A gunsmith reamed out the chambers for me, and all the chambers are good. There's a little bit of pitting, except there's one chamber that has a good amount of pitting that I'm not going to shoot rounds in anymore, because when I was shooting I had a case burst in there. You can see the daylight through there, so I just won't use that one chamber, even though it's not bad. It's not like it's going to blow up the gun. It's low pressure black powder, but I won't use that in chamber anymore, so I'll load 5. I'll just give you a good look at the original here. You can see how it's been blued over. And the Smith & Wesson mark there, you can hardly see. There's this Smith & Wesson on top of the barrel. And again, I don't have a second model Russian here, but we'll kind of show you the, oh, and real quick, here's an original Russian round. If I wanted to, I could try to fire it in that gun, but I'm not going to use a vintage round. I think it's from the 20s or 30s, I'm not sure, so I don't know if this is smokeless or black powder. But here it is compared to the American round. See how the American, it's a healed bullet and the lube's on the outside, then the Russian, they moved it to the inside. There's other people out there, more historical in-depth videos that they could do. That's not me, so I'm just going through the guns here. And one thing that's pretty cool about that gun there, that I wish their reproduction, they just discontinued their new Model 3 that they called the Frontier reproductions, and they weren't really correct anyway. I don't have a Russian model here to show you, but on their reproduction, just like the Russians, they have a screw here that you unscrew to be able to take the barrel out, which was on the second model Russians and I believe the thirds, but it wasn't on the originals. On the original new model number 3s, the new model number 3s are like this, and I'll go through how to take the cylinder off on each gun for you, and watch how easy it is on this one. I wish they were all like that. This one, when I get home to clean it, is going to be a bear, because in order to get the cylinder off, you have to take this screw out. Let me see if I can open it, or is it too fouled up? There we go. In order to get that screw out, or in order to get the cylinder out, I have to take that screw out, and then you have to take out the latch, which is connected to the sight, and then there's, oh, and then you also have to take out this screw, and then there's a detent, a spring, and the little thing that leans into the cylinder, and then there's the little plate here that holds the cylinder in. All that has to come out so you can get the cylinder out just to clean it. So obviously it's not something you would do in the field or on the range, because you'll lose little parts everywhere. And I know the originals were similar to that. I don't know if it was exactly like this gun. I've never taken apart an original. And then the Schofield's a little better, where you could probably do it in the field. You only have to take out one screw here, and then this whole piece here hinges up like a hood on a car, and then the cylinder can slide right off. So I didn't shoot the Schofield today, just so I already have 2 guns to clean. So you can see how that hooks on the cylinder to hold that in, so you could slide that up and the cylinder just comes right off. And then let me set the tripod up here and show you how easy the new model number 3 to get the cylinder off. So to get the new model number 3 cylinder off, look how easy this is. So just put it on half cock like it already is, open her up, and then just hold the latch up and just turn the cylinder left while slowly pulling it up, and it comes right off. Look how easy that is. And one thing that makes these originals better than the reproductions on black powder, they made the frames longer on all these reproductions so they could accept longer cartridges than what the originals had. So on the cylinders, they took off, see that little part coming out there? Right there. That's called a gas ring, I believe. And what that does when it's on the arbor or base pin, whatever you would call this here, it shields those threads a little better than just what the Schofield has here. So see, the Schofield doesn't have that. So all that stuff can get right on the little like arbor threads that they have there for fouling. So the guns lock up a lot quicker than originals. Originals, it was shielded, so it was a little better. It'd be nice if they made replicas like that, but I understand them making them in more common calibers, because most people are going to shoot modern smokeless factory loads through them. But for people that like to be authentic, like me and others, and shoot black powder, it stinks. But hopefully we could find more originals like that are in refinished good shape, or good shape like this to shoot, so you can get that full authentic feeling. And then I gotta put this cylinder back in the right way. 1 second. And there it is, all good to go. So sorry for my bad camera work here. I'm looking through while I'm trying to make the video. So I'll put in some shooting clips with all these, and like I said, if you want more information and history on these, there's other channels that do that, like Duelist 1954. I mentioned 11 Bang Bang earlier in the video. They're another one that does more detailed historical videos. I just thought I'd throw something together here because I had all three on hand, and I won't forever, so I'll give you one more look at all of them here. Gonna shoot an original Smith & Wesson new bottle number 3 that I need to get a letter on because I'm not sure if it was a Japanese Navy or custom order with a Russian style trigger guard. This one is in 44 Smith & Wesson Russian. It's got standard sights, which the rear ones are kind of worn down, so I'm not even sure where it's hitting yet. It's my first range trip with it. It's been refinished and it's a parts gun. Almost none of the parts match. So let's take a few shots. Please don't explode. These are black powder hand loads. A little bit of pitting in the chambers that were reamed out by a gunsmith, but you never know with these old guns. Flinch. Slight case bulging with the pitting, and I even had, that's not it, I had one case rupture slightly right there. You can see the daylight through it right there. Here's an original Russian round from the 1920s, I believe. Is it Remington UMC? Is this the one? Yeah, I believe this is from the 20s. I'm using round nose, flat point, 240 grain bullets today. I have some Keith wad cutters on the way to load up with black powder, but I think I won't load that one chamber that's split in the case because this brass is hard to come by. Starline brass. They haven't made it in a while. So it's a couple days after shooting now. I got all the guns all cleaned up, and the brass is cleaned and in the tumbler ready to reload again. I had a video cleaning these two, but I didn't realize I had the tumbler on in the background, so it kind of washed out the sound, so I'm not going to refilm that part of it. But a couple things I just learned while cleaning them, and also that I forgot to mention at the range. So I was wrong on this one. You don't actually have to take this screw completely out, and the little lever that the sight's connected to completely out to get the cylinder out. You just have to take that top screw out, loosen this screw so it's partially out, and then open this up. And once that screw is loose, that little piece right there that is holding the cylinder and is a plate under there, it'll actually slide up and out a little bit, but stay in there so that the detent and the spring and the sight lever bar there doesn't come out and go springing off in the distance. But it goes up just enough that it allows you to pull the cylinder out. So that's not too bad. But of course the Schofield's a little easier because it's just the one screw, like I said, and this one's just ridiculously easy. So something else I forgot to mention at the range was the different grip angles on these. The American has like a real steep grip angle, like almost 90 degrees. It really feels good when you're shooting, but I was surprised. It's a longer barrel, heavier gun, and I shoot 45 Schofield black powder in both of these. And it's amazing, even though how much heavier this gun is, the recoil feels like you're shooting a heavy 45 Colt black powder load out of like a Colt single action. The plow handle style grip that they brought in the Schofield really soaks up a lot of the recoil when it rolls back in your hand. But I will say I like the way the American grip feels in your hand better. Whenever I go to point the Schofield, my front sight's always way too high and I have to bend my wrist a lot to get the front sight lined up in the rear sight. The American just points naturally. I don't have a Russian model, like I said. And I know a lot of American shooters where it was kind of like the Schofield or the American with like a hump here and like a slightly different shaped grip. And of course the little trigger spur like my new model has here. And they said American shooters didn't like that because the nub would get in the way when you were getting your hand back up to cock the hammer. So I've never experienced that, but I could imagine that. And then the new model kind of marries all three together where it's not as much of a plow handle as the Schofield. It almost seems like it's... Actually, it's similar to a Schofield angle, but then it's got less of a little spur here than the Russian. But then it's like the shape of the grip is like the shape of a Russian. And to me, this one feels the best in hand. I don't like the trigger guard spur though, but it makes sense the last Model 3, once they had all the feedback and everything, that the last model would have the best feeling grip. But I still say the Schofield has the best bar and quick for reloading. I mean, maybe if you were going to pull it out of the holster, you might accidentally open it and stuff like that, but I just like how much easier it is to reload with one hand. This one I like better than the American's latch system, and the Russian has, I believe the Russian has the same as the American. Maybe later models have this one. I'm not sure on that. I have to look that up. And then last thing, specific to all the Uberti made reproductions, to meet American import laws, all pistols have to have some type of safety. That's why like Glocks have the, and all like striker fired guns, they have like a trigger dingus or whatever you call that, and some type of firing pin safety. And whenever surplus World War II firearms come in, like, you know, Tokarev TT-33s and stuff like that, they unfortunately have to put manual safeties on them, and there's like 10 different versions. Some put them on the slide, the frame, and all over the place. And then people complain about the Colt single action replicas because some of them have 3-click hammers with the new internal safety system. Then some of the floor click hammers have the long base pin so you can push it back into another recess and lock the hammer back. And then you have the conversions that have the little, like the little pieces where you can pull down to block the firing pin. And I like how they're just trying to hide them to keep the guns historically accurate. And the Model 3 reproductions they do a really good job. A lot of people don't even know what the safeties are in them. So I'll show you. I filmed a clip earlier, but again, like I said, I had the tumbler on in the background, so I'll show you the video, but I'll just tell you what it does. So inside, you'll see when I switch to that clip, there's a little bar in front of the hammer and a little recess that comes out of the hammer. And if you pull these guns back to that little first click there, you can push the hammer back forward and the cylinder is still locked up. And there's a big metal bar there that blocks the hammer, and there's no way it's going to go through that metal bar there. So that way you could carry 6. And then if you come back to the second click, your trigger moves, and now your cylinder's freed up. That's your half cock for loading and loading, unloading, and all that. And then your third click all the way back is your full cock. So you'll see that in the video, and watch down the bottom here. You'll be able to see the top of the trigger go into the notches in the hammer when it goes to half cock and all that, and the bolt drop and everything like that. And now that this thing's all clean from the black powder and everything, like I said last time, so we can get more light on there for you. That seemed to work really good last time about putting the grease on the arbor base pin, whatever they call them on these. So I got some Mobile One synthetic grease on there, and I'll see if that works just as good next time at the range. So I'll put in that clip here of the safety system, and then I guess I'll end the video. I don't really have much more to say on it. There's other experts out there that go into way more detail on these guns. So have a good one.